Well, the topic here is cultural trends, piercings, blogs, MySpace, and classical Christian education. Tattoos, anything else you want to throw in there. Baggy pants, tight pants, short pants, long pants. Whatever it is they're doing. And I want to begin by making a couple of prefatory comments. One of my favorite Doonesbury cartoons is a Sunday strip where there's a law professor who is, or a professor in some political science class, who's lecturing, and the class is full of people, of students with their heads bowed over their desks, scribbling frantically, taking notes as fast as he can talk, and he gets increasingly exasperated with them. And by the end of the strip, he's yelling nonsense. Jefferson was the Antichrist. Up is down, down is up. And the heads are all just bowed over the desk, frantically scribbling as fast as he can talk. And he finally says, right after Jefferson was the Antichrist, he says something like, education is dead. And then it cuts to the last panel, and one of the students says, this class is really getting interesting. And, and one of the others said, you bet, I didn't know half this stuff. Which reminds me of something my mother once said at a Bible study that she was leading when a number of ladies were assiduously taking notes. She said, more think, less ink. All right? More think, less ink. Now, this is what we're going to be talking about. When we talk about cultural issues and getting kids, as I've been talking about in the other sessions, the other workshops, where your job is not to get your kids to conform to the standard, your job is to get them to love the standard. And you want them to love the standard intelligently. All right? So it's not sufficient to simply clamp a bunch of rules on them and have them conform to the rules because they'd rather do that than fight you. That's not education. That's not parental godly biblical child rearing. That's not what we're after. We want them to think it through. We want them to come to internalize the standard so that the standard becomes genuinely theirs. And they can articulate it and defend it, and they can teach their kids to love it. So the issue here is not, when we talk about pop cultural phenomena, when we talk about trends, when we talk about fads, some of them comparatively innocent, some of them sinister and diabolical, some straight from the pit, and some that just look like they want to be from the pit, but they're not. There's a vast array of these pop cultural trends that are going to throw themselves at your kids. And by your kids, I mean your kids and your family, and I mean your kids in your classroom. All right, when you're talking about these issues, what you want to do is understand what's going on. Now, in one of the other workshops, I mentioned this then, and I need to reiterate it now. Culture, genuine culture, is something that's handed down over generations. So, in a sense, the ephemeral side of pop culture is not a culture at all. You just do your 15 minutes of fame in the Andy Warhol fashion, and then you're gone. You're off the stage. You've done your thing, and then you're done. So a great cathedral that many, many generations enjoy is a cultural thing. Bach cantatas are a cultural thing. They're handed down over generations. We have every reason to believe that 500 years from now, people will be listening to Mozart's music. We have every reason to believe that they're going to be listening to Bach. We have no reason at all to believe that they're going to be listening to Milli Vanilli, who had their 15 minutes of fame 10 or 20 years ago, whatever it was. So you have these pop bands that the whole point is to burst on the stage, become a fad, make a pile of money, and then go do something else. So consequently, those sorts of things are sort of swamp mist cultural things. They come into being and then they disappear. It's just and then you've got other things that are genuine cultural phenomena. And what we want to do is we want to teach and educate our kids so that they write stories and compose music and design buildings that will be enjoyed centuries from now. That's a cultural endeavor. If you just want them to make do and do something that's popular for 15 minutes, then that's not a cultural endeavor. Now, that by way of a prefatory comment. When you are teaching your kids about to react to pop cultural phenomena, what you need to do, what you must do, is enable them to look at it and see and identify what is being done and said and who is being worshiped. All right? You have to enable them to take it apart. When you show them, when you teach them English and you give them a sentence, they diagram the sentence. They take it apart. They can say, this is the subject, this is the predicate, this is an adverbial clause, this is not. They take it apart and they can break it all down. When they see a pop cultural phenomena or some recent trend, you want them to be able to look at it, and when they see it, you want them to be able to dismantle it. Just like a soldier in boot camp can break his rifle down, take the rifle down and reassemble it blindfolded, so you want your kids to be able to do the same thing. So as soon as they see it, they know what's going on. As soon as they see it, they have identified what's happening, and when they've identified what's happening, their loyalty goes to the right side. So it's not just you look at the phenomena and then you say, what's wrong with that? That's insufficient. What you want to do is look at it, take it apart. This is what they're saying. Is it true? This is the God being served. This is the worldview claim that's being made. And my loyalty is with Jesus Christ. And so consequently, my reaction to this must be the following. Sometimes that will mean that it's perfectly okay for them to embrace or use or enjoy whatever it is, go to the movie, whatever it is. Other times, once you see what's being done, it wrecks it for you, right? It doesn't. You don't want to be entertained by being lied to. You don't want to be entertained by having someone misrepresent the world to you. Do not make the mistake of thinking that you can govern students over the long term through rules. Rules, law, restrictions will be inadequate. All the rules will do is generate a desire to break them. Okay? Romans 3:20 and Romans 5:20. Law, even if it's God's law, reveals and manifests sin, and law, even God's law, provokes a desire in us to rebel against it. And if that's the case with God's law, God's holy law, how much more is it going to be the case when we're just making up arbitrary lists of regulations and restrictions?